I've been playing lots of action games lately. Mordhau, Mortal Kombat 11, Blade and Sorcery. I needed a change of pace this summer sale. Something totally different from the blood and the guts of my usual rotation of after-work play sessions. I decided on The Turing Test, a futuristic sci-fi puzzle game released in 2016, developed by Bulkhead Interactive. Last time I played a puzzle game was when I got disappointed by The Witness, so it was definitely time to try something new and get back into the puzzle genre. Set a few hundred years in the future, you play as scientist Ava Turing, working for the International Space Agency. You're woken up from hypersleep on a space station around Jupiter's moon Europa to investigate the disappearance of your fellow astronauts down on a base on the ground. Your main companion is an AI named Tom, who supplies you with information, questions, answers, as well as pleasant conversation. However, this is not a straightforward rescue. The crew have turned the base into a series of puzzles that require both logical and lateral thinking to bypass. I wonder why they would do that. Sticking to no spoilers, all I'm gonna say is that there are some unexpected and pretty cool twists and turns, as well as some very interesting moral and philosophical questions about AI, consciousness, humanity, and morality. There were a few moments where I just kinda mindlessly wandered the puzzle rooms because I was distracted thinking about the posed quandaries. The story in this game might be minimal compared to its gameplay elements, but it's a lot more captivating than I was going to give it credit for before I started playing. The Turing Test is a puzzle game through and through, and puzzle games are defined by three traits. What's going on besides the puzzles, how hard are they to figure out, and how satisfying are they when you do? We've already covered the first parts, what about the others? To make a comparison, I think the puzzles are harder than Portal, but not as hard as Numa, Breath of Life, but they are far more satisfying to solve than either of those two. All up, there are 70 rooms across 7 chapters, 10 puzzles per chapter, plus 1 bonus room each chapter as well. The bonus rooms will be significantly harder than others for most players, as they require much more divergent thinking, and basically ask you to try and break the normal rules of all the other puzzle rooms. The majority of these rooms revolve around this little energy gun that is totally not the Peps from Deus Ex, that can suck in and shoot out these balls of energy to power and depower mechanisms like doors and moving platforms respectively. There's a few different types of these energy balls, some that provide constant power, some turn on and off or are only on for a few seconds, etc. More and more elements are introduced as the chapters go on, and they do get pretty complicated and downright devilish once you're in the final stretch. Something important to keep in mind is the game's brevity, which I think is a strength more than a weakness. If it were any longer, I'd be afraid the story elements might stop being interesting, or that the puzzles would begin to overstay their welcome. Overall, I finished it up in about 4 hours, and I'm sure you could do it faster if you're not a drooling Cro-Magnon man like me. I'm ashamed to admit that I did have to look up 2 solutions for rooms. One was so obvious that I felt like a complete idiot for not noticing a vital power node, and the other one was a bonus room that relied on logic gates to open a long series of doors, and I just could not wrap my head around it. I did feel that one room was a little antithetical to the game as well, as that could be realistically brute forced, unlike the other puzzles. Anyway, as you can see, the graphics are pretty stunning. Textures are sharp, except for small text on signs and such. Real-time reflections are great, particle effects are super pretty, and there's a great use of color in a lot of the cramped indoor environments. This game gives off kind of a spooky atmosphere, despite having no combat or chase sequences. Just something about the omnipresence of Tom and the abandoned rooms at the facility just give me this kind of strange sci-fi vibe with a dash of horror. Sound design is good on most counts, the effects are fitting, easily discernible for audio cues, and satisfying, even though there aren't many. The voice acting is really good for the most part, with the AI companion Tom stealing the show for me. The protagonist Eva seemed to be the weakest link in the voice cast, unfortunately, as she has lots of speaking lines. She's not terrible, just not quite as good as Tom or the rest of the crew who you hear in audio logs or over the PA. The music is also fantastic, a haunting score of light piano, dark synth, and dreamlike melodies. Definitely a highlight that helps elevate the game as a whole. The only loading screens happen when you load in for the first time or transition between chapters every 10 levels. They're quick enough on ultra settings that they get a pass. It runs great too, not super demanding, so my FPS was always pretty high on a GTX 1080. The only issue I had was getting it to run due to a bug involving my HTC Vive, where the game would try to run it in that despite it not being a VR game and crashing, even when just trying to run it in DX12. Luckily the fix was simple, just disconnect the Vive link box from the PC, but still a pain in the ass considering the game has been out for 3 years and that was never fixed. So, in summary, you've got 77 puzzles, a great sci-fi atmosphere, beautiful visuals with decent sound, and neat philosophical concepts, all rolled into one tight, concise package. If you're a fan of puzzle games, sci-fi, or like contemplating the lines between artificial and biological intelligence, definitely pick this one up. Oh, and take my word on this one, you're gonna want to make it to the ending. Happy summer, my friends, and we'll see you again soon.